Hello and good evening, students, and welcome to Baiju's Exam Prep IES. So, today we'll be having a discussion on the prelim test series test on science and technology that was held on this Sunday. So, I'll just wait for a minute so that everyone can join the class. And those of you who have already joined the class, can you please let me know if I'm audible and visible? Okay, thank you so much. I'll just wait for a minute or so. So those of you who have already joined, I hope the paper went well. Okay, so we'll just start with the discussion now. So before we start, here's a quick thing that we have not included all the questions in this discussion because many of the questions, they were totally factual and they did not require much discussion. I've only included the questions which were conceptual or analytical in nature so that within the span of 2 hours we can discuss most of such questions. Okay. Okay, so we'll start with the first question. With reference to the general difference between plant and animal cells, consider the following statements. Plant cells have a cell wall, whereas animal cells do not. So this is a correct statement. Yes, the plant cells, they have a wall that is outside the cell membrane. Now this wall, why is it there in plants and not in animals? Because plants are usually immobile and they cannot move from one place to another to protect themselves from harsh weather or harsh outside conditions. So that is why plant cells have a cell wall while the animal cells do not. So this is correct. About this one, plant cells do not have cytoplasm, unlike animal cells which do. So this is a wrong statement. Cytoplasm or cellular fluid, it is present in all types of cells, be it a plant cell or an animal cell. Now the third statement, plant cells are round in shape, unlike animal cells which are rectangular. So this is a wrong statement. Why? Because the plant cells, they have a rigid cell wall outside them. So that's why they have a very defined shape. This cell wall is made up of cellulose. So that is why the plant cells, they have a very defined shape, while the animal cells which do not have a cell wall, they are irregular in shape. So this is also a wrong statement. So what is our answer? It is A. That only one statement, that is, this statement is correct. Now we move to the next question. Which among the following are the factors responsible for transfer of antimicrobial resistant genes in the human body? Now these genes, these antimicrobial resistant genes, they can be transferred from one microorganism to another. Okay, they can easily transfer or jump from one microorganism to another if they are in contact with each other. So what is the problem related to these genes? They create antimicrobial resistance amongst those microbes which have these genes. Now, antimicrobials, they are medicines or drugs that are used by human beings to eliminate the pathogenic microorganisms which cause disease in human bodies. Like for tuberculosis, a bacteria is causing us tuberculosis, right? So that is a pathogen, and to eliminate that we take certain medicines. But sometimes what happens, these microbes, they get resistant to those medicines, and that is known as antimicrobial resistance. Now amongst the statements we'll see, the first statement is correct. Now, even though the wastewater gets treated, somehow what happens? Only the visible impurities or the chemical impurities, they get eliminated from the wastewater. And when this treated wastewater, it is dumped in open channels like rivers, like oceans, then what happens? The the biological impurities in that, like pathogens, they remain in it. Now, sometimes what happens, the pathogens, they have these genes, and if the treated wastewater somehow comes in contact with the human beings, even the bacteria that are coming to the human body, they might also get these genes, these resistant genes. So this is a correct statement. This is also correct, because what happens, many times there is irregular or unnecessary use of antimicrobials amongst the animals to improve the productivity from animals. An example is colistin. This is a very high rate antimicrobial medicine which is often used illegally in many animals to increase the production of milk or increase their growth. So what happens, when their excreta, it is used as a manure in plants, these genes, they can get transferred to plants, and from there it can get transferred to humans. This is also correct. Many a times the aerosols that are around us, they have 10 times more ARGs or antimicrobial genes than compared to the drinking water. I hope I am audible and visible. Okay. Now, what about visiting healthcare facilities? Now, many times when we visit hospitals, we touch many surfaces, we see many people, and easily these genes, they can get transferred to human beings. Such diseases which we acquire from the hospitals, they are also known as hospital-acquired infections. So over here, what will be the correct answer? It will be D, that all the statements or all the 4 options are correct. Now we move to the third question. Consider the following statements with reference to difference between nuclear fusion and nuclear fission. Now, as and when I'll talk about the statement, I'll talk about the facts related to that instead of reading out the whole question, okay? That will help us complete more questions in lesser amount of time. Contrary to fusion, fission produces energy in a manner similar to what causes star to emit light. Now, stars, you know, like sun, they are balls of hydrogen and helium, right? So hydrogen and helium, they are so small atoms. Can fission occur from them? Fission is what? Breaking of the atoms, breaking of the molecules, right? So that cannot happen in hydrogen and helium. So what happens over here? What actually happens in stars is fusion and not fission. Fusion is fusing together of 2 atoms, and fission is division of that atom into other products, right? So this is a wrong statement. Next, the amount of energy released during the process of fusion is more than that released during fission. This is a correct statement. In fact, fusion releases 3 to 4 times more energy than it is released in fission. Unlike nuclear fission, the nuclear fusion process has not been used to generate electricity commercially. So what happens for fusion process to occur? Just a second. For fusion process to occur, to break down an atom, a lot of energy is required. So energy is required for fusion to take place, and then more energy is produced, right? So energy that is required is much less than energy that is produced. But even this amount of energy, producing this amount of heat and energy to conduct a fusion reaction, that is fusing 2 atoms, that has not been made possible as of now. Many research is ongoing in this field, but as of now, at commercial level, we are not able to get electricity through fusion. We are doing it through fission. The nuclear plants that we have, they use fission. They use radioactive materials like uranium to produce electricity. So, this is a correct statement. And what about this statement? One of the advantages of nuclear fusion over fission is that the process of generating energy through fusion does not aid in nuclear proliferation. There are certain bombs that can be created through fusion process as well. We have something called hydrogen bombs. So what happens here? You know about this process. We need energy for fusion and more energy is released, right? So this energy is produced through fission. Then fusion occurs and more amount of energy is released. So yes, such bombs, such nuclear proliferation can take place through fusion as well. So this is a wrong statement, and what is our correct statement? What is our correct answer? It is B. That statements 2 and 3 are correct. Okay. Now the next question. Which of the following are example of chemical change? Boiling of water, digestion of food, baking a cake, melting of polar ice caps, lighting a matchstick. Now chemical change is something that is irreversible. And contrary to that, we have physical change. Something that is reversible. So you can take an example over here. Now boiling of water. If you boil water, we get what? Water vapor. Now water vapor can be again converted into water, right? So this is a reversible process. That means this is not a chemical change. So this is not a chemical change. Digestion of food. When food goes inside you, it gets converted into a lot of byproducts, right? A lot of energy is released. And once the food has gone inside, if it comes out, it won't be in the same form, right? So this is a chemical change. This is a correct one. Baking a cake again is a chemical process because you cannot get back the products that went inside baking a cake, right? You cannot divide it into flour and sodium bicarbonate and so on, right? So this is also a chemical process. This, what about this? This is a physical process. If the ice caps are melting, once the temperature is reduced, they will again form back ice, right? So this is not a chemical process. This is a chemical process. When you light a matchstick, it gets burnt, you cannot get it back. So this is also a chemical process. So what is our correct answer? It is 2, 3 and 5. That is B. Now next question. Which of the following is the reason why water bodies and sky in general appear blue? Now there is a process known as scattering of light. And I'm giving away the answer that the answer is A, scattering of light. Now what happens? The low wavelengths of the VIBGYOR. You know about VIBGYOR? The visible electromagnetic radiations. Now this side, violet, indigo, blue, green, yellow, orange and red. So as we move from here to here, the wavelength of the rays, it increases. Now what happens? The lower wavelengths, they are easiest to scatter. And that is why the lower wavelengths, the violet, indigos and the blues, they get scattered the most. And that is why both the sky as well as the oceans or the water, it starts appearing blue. Now you'll ask why not violet? Why blue? Because the amount of blue energy, amount of blue waves that are released by the sun, they are much higher compared to the amount of violet or indigo waves, right? So that is why blue overpowers violet and indigo colors and it appears blue. So the correct answer is A. Now sometimes what happens, there is algae growth or some mud or some other impurities in the water, and that can affect the scattering process, and that is why the water, it might look something different. Now we come to this next question. Which of the following are the characteristics of near field communication? Now many of you are asking why not reflection, why scattering? Because first, I'll go back. First, scattering occurs. Once the scattering is occurred, the light that gets scattered most, it is reflected back. So scattering is the main process after which reflection occurs. So scattering is the correct answer. Yeah. Which of the following is a characteristics of the near field communication, NFC? Now NFC, many of you must have seen a sign like this in your phones, right? So this is for near field communication. Even these days there are POC machines, the cash machines in which the cards go, where we can make payment only through tapping our cards, right? We don't have to insert or swipe the cards. So that is also an example of near field communication. So it does not require any kind of manual pairing. In Bluetooth or in Wi-Fi, we require some amount of manual pairing, right? We have to pair the devices and only then information can get transferred. In NFC, that is not required. It provides wireless connectivity. Yes, when you're tapping your card, you're not connecting your card to the machine through any way. You're just tapping it over there, right? So no wires are required. It provides two-way communication. Yes, but about the range. The range is only up to 4 centimeter. It is not so high. So NFC's range is very limited, up to 4 centimeter. So this is a wrong statement. These are correct statements, right? And the answer is B. That is 1 and 2. Now consider the following pairs: the chemical and its industrial usage. Nitrogen, freeze food ingredients quickly. This is correct because liquid nitrogen, it remains at temperature which is somewhere around minus 196 degrees Celsius. So this causes flash freezing. Flash freezing is freezing of the food material within a few hours, within 1 to 2 hours. Usually freezing process, it takes a lot of time, but through flash freezing, it takes place very quickly. So nitrogen is used for this because it has a very low temperature. It can easily freeze the food, and because it is an inert gas, it does not affect the taste or the quality of the food. Next, we have sodium hypochlorite. Now, you must have heard of this thing many number of times during the COVID pandemic. Sodium hypochlorite is a disinfectant. It is used to disinfect surfaces. It is not a low-calorie sweetener. Now remember, during COVID time, many of you must have been spraying the surfaces with a lot of liquids. These liquids, they contain sodium hypochlorite. Yeah. Next, sulfuric acid. I'm sorry, there's some issue over here. I'm so sorry. This is a wrong statement, this is a wrong statement, and the correct answer is D, not B. I'm so sorry, okay? The explanation was correct, what I gave, but the answer here is D. It is not B. Thank you for the people who have pointed it out. Thank you so much. Okay, over here, this is wrong. Now, sulfuric acid, the maximum amount of usage of sulfuric acid by humans, it is actually for production of fertilizers. And phosphate fertilizers, they use a huge amount of sulfuric acid for their production. So this is a correct statement, and our correct answer is B. That is, two pairs are correctly matched. Now I'll just repeat that I have not included all the questions. Only a few questions which have conceptual or analytical parts, they have been included. The other questions which are factual in nature, they are not included in the presentation, so that we can have very quick discussion for all the questions which require any kind of discussion. Okay. Now the next question, which of the following options is incorrect with reference to end-to-end encryption technology? Now, what is end-to-end encryption? There are 2 points. The information, this is the sender, this is the receiver. Okay. So information needs to be sent from here to here. So this person writes a message, and then this message, it gets encrypted, so that when it is moving from here to here, no one can know what actually is inside the message. There is a key that is sent along with the message to the receiver. Now the receiver, he gets the key, he gets the encrypted message. The key is used to finally decrypt the message, and the receiver will get the decrypted message. If sender sent, "Hi, how was your PTS paper?" the receiver will also get, "Hi, how was your PTS paper?" While anyone in between, any hacker or any app that you're using, that over where your information is getting shared, no one will be able to know what is the message that is being sent. So this is end-to-end encryption. At both the ends, the message is encrypted and then decrypted. Okay. So the end-to-end encryption process uses an algorithm that transforms standard text into an unreadable format. This is correct. Yes, the message gets encrypted. It prevents third parties like internet service providers, like cyber criminals, from accessing data when it is being transferred. Yes, it is also correct. In the middle, the data is encrypted, and the other people, the cyber criminals or service providers, they won't be able to know. As an encrypted message is decrypted at the receiver's end, the secret key is deleted from the receiver's device. Now this key, yes, it gets generated over here, it is used over here, and then it gets deleted. So this is also correct. End-to-end encryption is only secure over cloud storage and can't secure stored data. This is wrong. Encryption does not only work on cloud storage, it also works on stored data as well. So our correct option, because we had to identify the incorrect statement, our correct option is D. Which of the following types of pollution is being controlled using polylactic acid or PLA? Now, why is this in news? Because UC Berkeley, researchers from this university, they have made a special type of plastic which can get biodegraded by itself. So biodegradable plastic, we have a lot of such plastics right now. Even when you order from many apps like even Amazon, Flipkart, many of them, they have started using biodegradable plastic. But the problem with biodegradable plastic is that it gets degraded only in special types of conditions. If it gets deposited in the landfills, if it gets mixed with the plastic and deposited in the landfills, it will not get biodegraded. Okay, it requires very special techniques to get biodegraded. So to solve this issue, the scientists at UC Berkeley, what have they done? They have made polylactic acid. This is a polymer of lactic acid. And they have infused certain enzymes within this polymer. So what happens? While you're using the plastic, it remains proper. However, later on, if certain amount of heat is applied on the plastic, it gets decomposed into its original form, that is lactic acid. Okay, now lactic acid, it can be used by soil microbes. It can be used by soil microbes. They can eat this lactic acid, and finally the plastic, it gets biodegraded. So polylactic acid, this polymer, the plastic made out of this polymer, it is infused with certain enzymes which make it truly biodegradable plastic. So the correct answer is B. Now the next question, with reference to superconductivity, consider the following statements. It refers to a state when a material can conduct electricity without any resistance. Now conductivity means transfer of electricity, right? When electricity is transferred, there is certain amount of resistance, which is denoted like this, certain amount of resistance, and that is why if we send 10 units, 9 units are received here. An approximation, just a fictional data over here. 9 units is received over here because of resistance, and 1 unit, it is lost as heat. UC Berkeley is a University of California. Okay, right. So when this gets transferred, some amount of electricity is lost and in form of heat. Now what happens in superconductivity? These heat losses are minimized to such levels that it seems that there is almost nil resistance in that particular material. So this is a correct statement. It refers to a state when material can conduct electricity without any resistance. It was first observed in mercury. Yes, this is also true. It was first observed in mercury in the year 1911. In order to get a material to a superconducting state, it needs to be put under extremely high temperature. Now, know one thing very clearly, that in conducting materials, whenever you will increase temperature, their conductivity will reduce because of molecular vibrations. Their molecules will start vibrating, and that will leave less space for the electrons to move, right? And movement of electrons is what? Electricity, right? So if the temperature increases, the conductive power will reduce. So this is a wrong statement. In fact, the superconducting state is observed at very low temperatures. Around almost 0 Kelvin, more than 50 elements of our periodic table are known to show superconductivity. One of the potential applications of this is operationalization of the maglev trains. Maglev trains are magnetic levitation trains. So yes, this is true. The maglev trains, they use superconductivity, which helps in producing supermagnets, which are able to help us in movement of these trains. So the correct answer over here is B, that is statements 1, 2 and 4. Now the next one, consider the following statements. Deoxyribonucleic acid or DNA is not present in cells that lack nuclei. This is wrong statement. There are two types of cells, eukaryotic and prokaryotic. In eukaryotic cells, we have nucleus, and this nucleus, it contains the DNA. In these cells, we don't have a nucleus, but the DNA is contained in the cytoplasm or the liquid part of the cell. So this is a wrong statement. DNA of all organisms is composed of same nitrogen-based molecules. This is correct. We have 4 nitrogen-based molecules: adenine, thymine, cytosine and guanine. ATCG. So all the DNAs of entire living organisms, they are composed of these 4 proteins, these 4 nitrogen-based molecules. Only the configuration, the pattern in which they are arranged, it differs from species to species. This is also correct. DNA fingerprint is same for all cells of a person's body. Now for humans, 90.9% of DNA of my DNA, of your DNA, of anyone's DNA who is a human, 90.9% DNA is same. Sorry, 99.1% DNA is same for all the humans. Only 0.9% DNA is different. Okay, so this DNA determines your specific characteristics, the color of your hair, the color of your skin, the type of metabolism you have, and so on, right? However, for every human, for every individual, his DNA in his entire body will be same. The DNA sample taken from hair, taken from blood, taken for nails, it will be entirely same. So this is a correct statement, and our correct answer here is D. Which of the following can be effectively removed from a water solution by using reverse osmosis? Now there is an osmosis. This is a phenomena. So what happens over here? If you take a container, you have a membrane over here which is permeable, from where the products can move from one place to other. Now here you have certain chemical or certain solution which has low concentration, right? And this is high concentration. For example, sugar water is here. Low concentration sugar water means more amount of water, less amount of sugar. High concentration means high sugar, low water. Okay. So you have sugar solutions in both the places. So what happens in osmosis? There is always a transfer of the solute, that is, in which the material is dissolved. Material that is dissolved is sugar. It is dissolved in water. So water is the solute. So in the osmosis process, the solute through this permeable membrane, it always moves from low concentration to high concentration, and eventually after time the concentration in both the places, it becomes same. So this is osmosis. Now what is reverse osmosis? We apply pressure on the high concentration area such that instead of moving from low to high, the solute starts moving from high to low concentration areas. Okay, so this is reverse osmosis. Now you must have heard of RO, UV systems, right? So RO is nothing but reverse osmosis. You must have filters, you must have aquaguards in your houses. They use this reverse osmosis technology to purify your water. I'm sorry, this is solvent and sugar will be the solute. I'm sorry about that. So this RO technology, this reverse osmosis technology, it is used for purifying the water. It can remove copper, it can remove bacteria, it can remove virus, protozoa and salts. However, it cannot remove certain gaseous materials which get dissolved in water like methane, like carbon dioxide and so on. Okay. Yeah. So the correct answer here is C. In the context of India, consider the following statements with reference to critical infrastructure. Now, critical infrastructure, it has been defined in section 70 of our IT Act, also known as critical information infrastructure. So this is a correct statement. It refers to cyber-based systems whose destruction will have a very serious impact on national security. Apart from that, it is also mentioned in section 70 that apart from national security, it will also have a serious impact on our economy and on public health and safety. So if any information that is very critical for either our economy, either our national security or public health and safety, then that can be considered as critical infrastructure or critical information infrastructure. The union government has power to declare any data, database or communication infrastructure as critical infrastructure. This is also correct statement. The IT Act gives the power to the union government to determine what is critical infrastructure. Recently, the IT resources of ICICI and HDFC banks have been declared as critical infrastructure. This is also a factual statement which is correct. And apart from this, it was also declared that the information infrastructure of NPCI, that is National Payments Commission of India, which manages the UPI system of the country, that has also been declared as critical infrastructure. Okay, so the correct answer here is C, that all three statements are correct. With reference to generative artificial intelligence recently seen in the news, consider the following statements. Unlike traditional artificial intelligence, generative AI analyzes the existing data without creating any novel content. Now, generative, the word is there. Generative, that means it will be generating something, right? That is why it has been called not just simple AI, but generative AI. So, after learning about the world through machine learning, this generative AI is now able to produce novel content. That is new content that had not been produced by the human beings before. It is completely new. It can be music, it can be art, it can be articles, or so on. It can even be books. In fact, you must have heard of how ChatGPT, it has been used for creating research papers for magazines like Nature, for such big journals like Nature. There has been many debates amongst the art community as well about AI generated art. So this is wrong statement. Generative AI can generate alternative personalized treatments to people with health problems. So, generative AI, yes, if it gets proper information regarding medical records, regarding the history of the person, regarding what are the symptoms of the person, it can generate personalized treatments as well. All it needs is information, then according to, on the basis of the information, whatever output you want, it can generate that output. So this is a correct statement. So which are correct? Only two. Now the next question. Consider the following statements with reference to biocompressed natural gas, that is bio-CNG. It is purified and compressed form of biogas with more than 90% of ethane content. Now biogas, yes, it is purified and compressed biogas. This is that. However, biogas, you must know it has methane, CH4, and not ethane. So this is a wrong statement. Bio-CNG is purified and compressed form of biogas with more than 90% of methane and not ethane. About this, in comparison to LPG, liquid petroleum gas, bio-CNG poses a larger risk of fire. This is also a wrong statement. Why? Because LPG, it is heavier. So what happens if there is a leakage? It gets settled here. So it is heavier than air. So air is here and LPG, it gets settled over here. It does not dissipate. Okay. So there is a higher chance of fire problems, higher risk of fire. Compare that to bio-CNG. It is lighter than air. So if it gets released, if it gets leaked, then what happens? It will go above the air. This is air. It will go above the air. And over here, because at higher altitude, there is higher amount of wind that is flowing, right? So it can easily get dissipated in the atmosphere. And it does not have a larger risk of fire. So the correct answer over here is D, that neither one nor two are correct. In which of the following industries ethifon, considered harmful for human health, is mostly used nowadays? Now, ethifon, I'll state the answer. It is artificial fruit ripening. Now, there is something called ethylene. Now, ethylene is something that is used by the fruits, that is used by the plants to ripen their fruits. Now, what happens? Ethifon, it helps in releasing this ethylene in unripe fruits. Okay. So, if there is an unripe fruit and it is subjected to ethifon, then what will happen? Ethylene will get released, and this fruit, it will get artificially ripened. Okay, so it will not get ripened on the tree or naturally in a room. It will get ripened chemically. Okay, so this is the correct answer. Now this is, yes, it is very harmful for human health. It can cause many gastric and urinary problems. Okay, so the correct answer here is B. Consider the following statements. While solar photovoltaic cells generate electricity, solar thermal is used to heat water or air. Now, solar energy that we get from the sun, it can be put to two uses. One is electric uses, that is, we can produce electricity. A very good example is polar photovoltaic cells that help in production of solar electricity or solar power. Then we have thermal use. Thermal use, that is, we are using the heat of the sun. Here we are using the light of the sun. Here we are using the heat of the sun. So a very good example over here is solar cookers or solar water heaters. So yes, solar photovoltaic cells, they help in generation of electricity, while solar thermal is used to heat water or air. This is a correct statement. Solar thermal is more space efficient than solar photovoltaic cell. This is also a correct statement. The efficiency, the space efficiency of solar thermal is almost 90%, while that of solar photovoltaics is 10 to 15% only. In fact, the highest efficiency PVs that have been generated, their efficiency is not above 40%. It lies somewhere between 35 to 40%, and these are not commercially used also. The commercially used, they have a very low efficiency. So this is also a correct statement. And what is our correct answer? It is C. Both 1 and 2 are correct. Which of the following is mainly used for anti-radiation pills recently seen in the news? Now, anti-radiation pills, the pills that prevent absorption of radiation in your body, these are known as anti-radiation pills. The correct answer here is D. Why? So whenever there is any radioactive leakage, what happens? Radioactive iodine, it is released. Now our thyroid gland, which absorbs iodine to produce various enzymes or hormones, it absorbs iodine. Okay, now it cannot differentiate between radioactive iodine or normal iodine. So if it absorbs radioactive iodine, what happens? We can get thyroid cancer. Now, how does potassium iodide help? Now, potassium iodide has a high concentration of iodine. If I consume this, also represented as Ki, if I consume this, what happens? It has a large amount of iodine. The thyroid gland, it gets saturated with iodine to such levels that any amount of external iodine, be it natural, be it radioactive, it cannot be consumed anymore by the thyroid gland. So, in case there is radioactive iodine in the atmosphere, after I have consumed the pill, then I would be protected from that. Okay. So note one thing, that this is a preventive pill. That is, if I'm already exposed to the radioactive iodine, it will not help me. However, if I've consumed it and then I'm exposed to radioactive iodine, then this will protect me. So the correct answer here is D. Yes, this is the same. Ki or potassium iodide is the same pill that has been distributed in Ukraine. Consider the following statements with reference to stem cells. These cells can be developed from brain cells in the human body. This is a correct statement. Many parts of our body, like our blood, like our brain, like our bone marrow, they have certain stem cells. Now these cells, they do not have any function of their own. They're not contributing to brain activity or bloodstream or anything. They are just lying there. In case there is any damage to any of our nerve cells or there is any requirement of more nerve cells, what will happen? These stem cells that are there in the brain, they'll get converted to nerve cells. Okay, or the cells in the blood, stem cells in the blood, they'll convert to RBC or WBC or platelets, whatever is required. Okay, so this is correct. This is also correct. They do not have any specific function in the body. Like brain cells, they have certain functions. The blood cells, they have certain functions. The stem cells, they do not have any function of their own. However, once they get converted to other type of cells, they start doing that particular function. Yes, this is also true. They can multiply. The stem cells, they can also multiply amongst themselves. One can divide it into two and so on. So yes, they have the ability to renew themselves. If 5 stem cells are used to get converted into RBCs, then they will get replenished. Okay, so the correct answer here is D. Next, which of the following are current applications of carbon dots? Now, carbon dots are something called carbon nanoparticles. Now, these are carbon nanoparticles which have size less than 10 nanometer and they are discrete dots. They are quasi-spherical in shape. So these are carbon dots. Carbon dots are a type of carbon nanoparticles less than 10 nanometer. They are discrete dots in the space, discrete particles. That is, they are not clumped together. They are discretely present and they are quasi-spherical. That is, they are not exactly spherical, but they are almost spherical in shape. About the functions, they can almost undertake all those functions that you know that carbon nanoparticles can undertake. Okay, so all these functions, they can be undertaken by these carbon dots, and the correct answer here is D. Next, consider the following statements with reference to low temperature thermal desalination technology. Now, just one clarification, these questions, they are both current affairs based as well as theoretical based or conceptual based. Okay. Consider the following statements regarding low temperature thermal desalination technology. Now, I'll tell you what happens over here. So, the surface water, it is warmer of the oceans and the water layers below, they are colder because they are exposed to sun. So their temperature is higher than the lower layers. So what happens? In this technology, in low temperature thermal desalination technology, there is flash evaporation of the upper warmer layers of water through low pressure. Now, if the pressure is low, what happens? Even at lower temperature, the water can boil or water can evaporate. Okay. So, what happens? The water gets evaporated. So, all the impurities, they are left behind and pure water only gets evaporated. Now, this pure water, once it has been evaporated through pipes, it is passed through the lower layers of the ocean. Now, these lower layers are colder. So what happens? The water gets condensed into liquid form and we are able to get pure water or desalinated water. So from the upper layers, upper warmer layers, the water, it is flash evaporated through low pressure and low temperature. Then it is passed through the lower colder layers. So it gets condensed. Here it is evaporated, right? So we get here pure water. So this is a desalination technology that has been indigenously developed in India at National Institute of Ocean Technology. National Institute of Ocean Technology. Okay. So this, it converts atmospheric water from pollution affected areas into potable water. It is wrong. It is desalinating the ocean water itself. It has nothing to do with polluted areas. This is correct. It does not require any chemical pre and post treatment of the water, because water is just undergoing evaporation and condensation, right? There is no chemicals involved. It has been indigenously developed. This is also correct, and our correct answer is B. Okay, so LTTD, low temperature thermal desalination technology, we are just using low pressure to evaporate the water at low temperature, and that is why it is low temperature desalination technology. So at low pressure, low temperature, the warmer layers of the ocean, they get evaporated in a tube, and from this tube it then transfers the water to the lower layers of the ocean where it gets condensed. So we are just evaporating the water and then condensing it. During evaporation, what happens? Only pure water gets evaporated. The impurities are left behind, and then this pure water vapor, it gets condensed and we get pure water. Now the next question, which of the following statements are incorrect with reference to difference between barcodes and RFID, radio frequency identification technology? Now RFID, you must be by now very familiar with it, because all of you who travel through four-wheelers, you must have an RFID card on your four-wheelers, right, for the toll gates. So barcodes also you must be aware of. Whenever you go to a shop and you want to purchase something, on the tag there is a certain barcode, which is, and the person, the cashier, they use a particular machine to scan that barcode. Okay. So RFID, it uses radio waves to transmit data, while barcodes use light to read patterns. This is a correct statement. Radio frequency. So definitely it will talk about radio waves, right? So it uses radio waves, and barcodes, they use light. The machine that they use to read the barcodes, they have a red light, right? So that helps in reading the barcodes, reading the patterns on the barcodes, right? So this is a correct statement. RFID is near field technology, whereas barcodes don't require a direct line of sight with the code to function. RFID, it is true, it is a near field technology. Now I told you about, we have discussed about near field communication, right? So this is also near field technology. RFID is also a near field technology. Both work on radio waves. However, the range of both is different. While for this, the range was just 4 centimeter, the range for RFIDs is up to 100 meters. Okay. Sorry, 100 centimeter. Now barcodes, whenever the cashier, they want to read the barcode, they have to always place it over the barcode, right? So a line of sight is required. Unless the machine sees the barcode, it cannot process it. So line of sight is required in barcode. So this is a wrong statement. First part of it is correct. The second part of it is incorrect. Unlike barcode scanners, RFID scanners can process multiple tags per second. So yes, this is also true. For barcode scanner, it can only scan one, because it needs line of sight, right? So it will just scan one, then another, then another. For RFID, that's not the case. There's no requirement of line of sight. The thing, it need not be in front, directly in front of the scanner, okay? So it can scan it from a distance as well. So RFID scanners, they can process multiple tags per second. So this is correct. And what is our incorrect statement? It is 2. So the answer is B. Now the next question. With reference to communication technology, consider the following statements regarding the difference between 4G and 5G technologies. Unlike 4G, which operates on low band spectrum, 5G operates only on high band spectrum. This is actually wrong. 4G, it operates on low band. 5G, it can operate on low, medium, and high bands. So, low, medium, and high bands are determined by the frequency. Low band has low frequency less than 1 gigahertz. For mid, the frequency it ranges between 1 to 6 gigahertz. And for high, the frequency ranges between 24 to 60 gigahertz. Okay. So 5G can operate on low, medium as well as high band spectrums, and that is why its bandwidth is higher, because it can work at higher number of bands. So this is correct. In comparison of 4G, 5G network can be more effective at processing data in the cloud. Now, there is something called latency that is associated with all the communication related to Wi-Fi and so on. Okay, what is latency? The time taken for movement of data from one point to another. Okay, from this point to this. For example, this is data on the cloud. How much time will it take to reach this particular device? Be it a self-driving car or be it your mobile phone itself. Okay, so that is called latency. For 5G technology, the latency is much less than the 4G technology. So that is why it will be more effective in processing data in the cloud. That is, from cloud to the processing device where the data needs to be processed, it will be very quick. The movement of data will be very quick. So this is a correct statement. So what is our correct answer? It is 2 and 3. That is C. Yes, latency is delay. Latency is the time taken to move from one point to another. Which among the following fungi have been included in the recently launched WHO Fungal Priority Pathogen list? Now this list, this has been released by WHO for the first time ever to identify the priority fungal pathogens with regards to antifungal resistance that is being developed in the fungi. Okay, so we get many fungal infections as well, and some of these fungi, they are getting resistant to the antifungals that are used to treat those diseases. So WHO has released a list of such fungi. It has divided the fungi into 3 categories: critical, high, and medium. For critical, there is an urgent need to develop more and to have more research and develop better antifungals to fight those fungi. So this, it has been included in the critical category, and this has been included in the high category. This has not been included in the list, and the correct answer here is A. Okay. Am I visible? Am I visible and audible? If someone is not able to see or hear, kindly just refresh your screen, please. Consider the following statements with reference to biogas. It is formed by the anaerobic fermentation of organic material under controlled conditions. Anaerobic fermentation is in absence of oxygen. So we have aerobic digestion, we have anaerobic digestion that is conducted by the bacteria. Anaerobic is an absence of oxygen, aerobic is in presence of oxygen. So aerobic digestion, it usually produces carbon dioxide, whereas anaerobic, it produces CH4 or methane, which is used to, and that is why this process is used for biogas production. Okay. The thermal efficiency, so this is a correct statement. Second, the thermal efficiency of biogas is less than that of diesel. This is also true. The thermal efficiency, or the efficiency of conversion of heat into work, that is known as thermal efficiency. So thermal efficiency for diesel is highest amongst the fuels, and it is 60 to 70%. For biogas, it is less than that. It is around 55 to 60%. Now, biogas obtained from dry leaves has less methane content than cow dung. Now, whenever biogas is to be produced, usually it is best to use animal waste compared to the plant waste, because the amount of methane that will be present in the biogas that is produced using animal waste, it will definitely be higher. So this is a correct statement. Why? Because these plant-based waste, they are difficult to digest by the anaerobic bacteria, and the animal waste, it is easily digested. For dry leaves, that is why the less amount of methane is produced in the biogas. So the correct answer is C. Sorry, we have to find the incorrect statement. The correct answer here is D. Which of the following is or not required while accessing video content using direct to mobile technology? Now, the Government of India, the Ministry of Information and Broadcast, they are trying to develop the direct to mobile technology. Now, what will happen here? Instead of using an antenna or a set-top box, the TV signals, they will directly be received in your mobile phones. Like earlier we used to happen, right? Our phones, we used to listen to radio on our phones itself, right? Our phones used to receive the radio signals. Similarly, now our phones will be able to receive videos through the various channels, right? So this is direct to mobile technology. It will not require any internet connection or any special lenses or any 3D glasses, okay? You will directly be able to receive the signals, the TV signals on your phone without the use of internet. Like right now you use Netflix, but you require an internet connection for that, right? Even to download the programs, you need the internet connection. But in this technology, it will not be needed. So, just a second. So, all these three, they will not be required, which are not required. So, the answer is D. Which of the following can be effectively done by nanotechnology considering the present state of development? Now, nanotechnology, it is a technology that uses devices, substances, or processes that have where the size of the particles, it is less than 100 nanometers. Now, nanotechnology, it is being very rapidly developed in the world. There is a lot of research and development going on in the world right now. And all these, they can be actually done by the nanotechnology. In fact, in India, with the help of many industries, we have developed self-disinfecting antiviral face masks with the help of nanotechnology itself. Nanotechnology for many years, for more than 10 to 12 years, they have been used in the health sector for transportation of drugs, for treatment of diseases. They are also used to develop room air purifiers, self-cleaning walls, and so on. They are also being used to develop very quickly charging smartphone batteries that will get discharged very slowly. It is also being used for desalination of water. In fact, molybdenum disulfide, it has been nanoparticles of this particular compound. They have known to be, not the nanoparticles, but membranes. which are made out of nanoparticles of this particular compound, they are known to be much higher in efficiency compared to any traditional methods for desalination of water. Desalination is removal of salt from the water, purification of the ocean water. Okay, so the correct answer here is 4. Next. Consider the following statements with reference to liquid nano urea recently seen in news. Why is it in news? Because world's first liquid nano urea plant has been inaugurated by a prime minister at Kalol in Gujarat. So this is a very big achievement for us. So unlike other conventional urea fertilizers, it is not applied directly on plant leaves. This is wrong. It is actually applied directly on plant leaves. It is a liquid and it is directly sprayed on the plants. Usually what is done? Urea, it is applied to the soil. It is added to the soil, the normal urea. And unlike that, this is directly applied to the plant. So this is wrong. It has greater efficiency. Yes, it has much greater efficiency. Normal urea, only 25% efficiency. While this liquid nano urea, it has 85 to 90% efficiency. It is much higher compared to normal urea. So it will prevent wastage of the fertilizer. So this is correct. In comparison to conventional urea, that is urea powder or urea pellets, liquid nano urea, it increases leaching process in the soil. This is incorrect. Why? Because it is not directly applied to the soil. The normal urea pellets, the conventional urea, it was applied to the soil. So here is urea, here is the plant. It is applied to the soil directly. So this leads to leaching of urea in the lower layers of the soil, right? Leaching is transfer from the surface to the lower layers, right? So this is incorrect because it is not applied to the soil itself. It will not get leached also. So the correct answer here is A. Now the next question. Consider the following statements. And which of the above are potential applications of NFTs, non-fungible tokens? Now, first you need to understand what do you mean by fungible. Fungible is something that can be easily replaced. For example, if you have a coin of 1 rupee, another coin of 1 rupee can easily replace it. If you lose that 1 rupee coin, another 1 rupee coin can easily replace it. Similarly, if you have 1 Bitcoin, if you have 5 Bitcoins, they are replaceable. It is not necessary that out of these 5 Bitcoins, you will have to use only a particular one. You can use all of them interchangeably. They are interchangeable, easily replaceable, right? Compare that to NFTs, non-fungible tokens. They are certain things which cannot be replaced. They are also related to blockchain technology, but they are non-fungible. They cannot be replaced. For example, many celebrities, they introduce their NFTs, their paintings, their photographs. You had a single photograph which cannot be replaced. For example, if you use 5 Bitcoins to buy a particular photograph, for example, Mona Lisa. Now you cannot you cannot ask someone that I'll give you Mona Lisa, you give me the Last Supper, right? They are not easily replaceable. They are not liquid in nature. Whereas the fungible tokens like the cryptocurrency, they are replaceable in nature or liquid in nature, okay? So NFTs, they can do all the things that can be done, that are the advantages of the blockchain technology. So they can do all these 4 functions. They can test the authenticity of the products. For example, right now you have holograms, right? Instead of holograms, NFTs can be associated with the product to identify its authenticity. Transfer of land deeds and proof of real estate ownership. Similarly, they can be used to produce certain IDs that only a particular person will be owner of. And because they are non-fungible, non-replaceable, so anyone else cannot claim the ownership of that particular NFT that is associated with that real estate property. Reduction of cheating and fraud during elections. Yes, that can also be done. People can be provided with certain identities associated with their epic cards, their identity, electoral identity cards, right? Protection of patents and intellectual property. Definitely, this can also be done using the NFTs. So the correct answer here is D. Which of the following is a type of RNA, ribonucleic acid, that carries the genetic information needed for synthesis of proteins in human bodies? So RNAs, they consist of information regarding protein production in our body. Okay. Now, carrying the genetic information, just by reading this, you will understand that it should be messenger RNA. It is carrying the information. It is a messenger. It is carrying the information from one place to another. So the correct answer here is A. That is messenger RNA. It carries the genetic information which is needed for synthesis of proteins in the human body. What does transfer RNA do? It, just a second. Yeah. So there is a process called transcription. So transfers RNA. It translates the products into proteins that are used for the body, right? Ribosomal RNA, they help in production of ribosomes, which are very essential for synthesis of proteins in our body. And then we have microRNAs that regulate the amount of proteins that are being produced in the cell. They regulate that we need 5 units of this protein, 10 units of this protein, 15 of this protein. So they are regulating the amount of proteins that are needed in our body. So the correct answer for this is A. Which of the following diseases can be prevented by using pentavalent vaccine as seen in the news? So pentavalent vaccine, penta means 5. So pentavalent vaccines, they provide the person or the child with the immunity against 5 diseases. Now initially in the universal immunization program, we had a trivalent. Tri means 3. We had a trivalent vaccine that covered DPT. It was known as a DPT vaccine. It covered 3 diseases. Now, there has been an introduction of pentavalent vaccine that apart from DPT also covers hepatitis B and Haemophilus influenza type B. So now we have a pentavalent vaccine in our universal immunization program. So this vaccine, it can be given to a child between the ages of 6 weeks to 1 year. Okay. So the correct answer here is D. With reference to different sources of energy, consider the following statements. The older the coal, higher the carbon content it contains. That is definitely true. Why? Because vegetation, it takes a lot of time to convert into coal. So vegetation has a lot of moisture, a lot of other chemicals, other elements, and coal, it has a lot of carbon content. So the other chemicals, other elements over time, they decompose, and what is left is pure carbon, right? So more the time, the older the carbon, more the time that it is under immense heat and pressure, buried under the earth, more pure will be the coal, more will be the content of carbon in the coal. So anthracite coal, which is the coal with highest carbon content, it is the oldest. At present, natural gas deposits are a major source of terrestrial helium. This is also true. They contain about 2.7% of helium, okay, and that is a major source of, and that is why they are a major source of terrestrial helium. SAR gas is a type of natural gas that contains predominantly nitrogen oxide. Now, what is SAR gas? You need to first understand that. SAR gas is a type of natural gas which is rich in hydrogen sulfide or a combination of hydrogen sulfide and carbon dioxide. So it does not contain nitrogen oxides, it contains hydrogen sulfide or carbon dioxide. So this is a wrong statement and a correct answer here is B, that is two statements are correct. Consider the following statements with reference to neutrinos recently seen in the news. Why are they in news? Because the Indian Neutrino Observatory that is to be established in Theni in Tamil Nadu, it has come under controversy again. Neutrinos are electrically charged particles found abundantly in the Earth's atmosphere. Now, this is a wrong statement. Neutrinos are not electrically charged. They are neutral. They are neither positive nor they are negative. However, they are one of the most abundant particles in the universe. However, they do not interact much with the matter, and that is why we do not have a lot of information with regards to neutrinos. Sun's ultraviolet radiation is the primary natural source of neutrinos on Earth. This is true. Why? Because neutrinos are generally generated after a fusion or a fission reaction. Just a second. I'm so sorry again. It was asking for the incorrect statement. Just because I want to finish this as soon as possible, I want to cover as many questions. So the correct answer here is A and not B. Okay. I'm so sorry. Yeah, here we are back here. Now neutrinos, they are released after a fusion or a fission reaction. Okay, so what is the biggest source of such reaction in our solar system? It is sun. So that is why most of the terrestrial neutrinos we have, most of the neutrinos that we get on the Earth is through sun. Now, because fusion and fission is the main source of such neutrinos, that is why they are also produced when any supernova event occurs. So this is also true. Now, neutrinos may be used in exploration of minerals and oil deposits. Now, neutrinos, they have a property known as spin property. They spin, okay? Now, depending upon the length that they have traveled and depending upon the amount of matter that has come across them and the type of matter that has come across them, its spin might change. So in the future, if we are able to identify the neutrinos and their spins, this will also help us in identifying which areas on the Earth have a particular minerals. So if there is certain amount of minerals, we'll release a ray of neutrinos and we'll catch it on the other side. Okay, this is the catching station. So we'll catch it, we'll identify what was the spin of these neutrinos and what was the spin of these neutrinos, and that will help us in assessing whether or not a particular mineral or particular oil deposit is present in this area or not. So which are incorrect statements? Only one. So the correct answer is B. So neutrinos are very small particles that are not electrically charged that roam around in the universe. They are type of particles just like electrons, protons, neutrons. Okay. Which one of the following options is correct with reference to hemophilia? Now, hemophilia, it is a disease that makes clotting very difficult in our body. Now, if you get a cut, the blood comes out, right? And after a point, what happens? It gets clotted. So the flow of the blood, it stops from that point through clotting. In hemophilia, this clotting is affected because of absence of certain clotting agents. So statement A is, while hemophilia A is caused due to excess gene formation, B is caused due to absence of gene formation. This is wrong. Both are caused due to lack of a certain clotting agent. Gene mutation is absent in both A and B. This is also wrong. Why is it wrong? Because gene mutation is the reason why that particular clotting agent 8 in hemophilia A and agent 9 clotting agent in hemophilia B is absent. Okay, hemophilia A is more common amongst human beings than hemophilia B. This is correct. Hemophilia A, we have cases, one case in 5,000 people, while for B we have one case per 20,000 people. This is wrong because both of these hemophilias, they can be inherited from the mother or the father. However, for hemophilia B, 30% of cases can even occur in people who do not have any family history related to hemophilia. Consider the following pairs. So the correct answer here is C. Now consider the following pairs, product and the form of carbon that is present. Carbonated drinks, you all know that carbon dioxide is present in these carbonated drinks. That's why every parent asks you not to have those drinks because they will destroy your teeth. Next, we have fire extinguisher. This is wrong. Carbon monoxide is an inflammable gas. It gets burned. So it can definitely not be used in fire extinguisher. Carbon dioxide in liquid form, it is used in fire extinguisher. For example, there is fire. You put fire extinguisher, there becomes a layer of carbon dioxide over the fire. It cuts the supply of oxygen to the fire and helps in burning it, helps in eliminating the fire. This is a correct statement. Yes, calcium carbide, it is a white material which is used for welding, which is used in welding as a hardening agent. Okay, so what is the correct answer? Which are correctly matched? We have 1 and 3. The term Neuralink chip, recently seen in news, is associated with which of the following? Now, Neuralink chip, if you are regularly following science news, you must know about Elon Musk and how he has developed, his company has developed this Neuralink chip. Now this chip, it is an AI powered microchip that can be surgically inserted into your brain, and it can help the disabled people in their motor skills and vocal skills. It can take a look at various data related to your body, and this data can eventually be copied into a system like a pen drive or so on. It can be copied over there so that researchers can study that data eventually. So the correct answer here is C. With reference to information technology, which one of the following options best describe the term forks? Now, fork, it is recently very much in news because India has developed its own indigenous OS, operating system for mobile phones, known as Bhar OS. Now, this Bhar OS is a forked version of Android. Now, what does that mean? In 2008, when Android system was launched, what it was first launched, it had a particular code on the basis of which the Android system was made and used by Google. Okay, now this code, this source code which was used to produce this OS, operating system, it is an open source code. That is, anyone can access this particular code and they can make their own operating systems. Same has happened here. Researchers in IIT Madras, they have made Bhar OS, which is a forked version of Android. That is, it uses the same code. However, it is unique. It is not similar to Android. It is unique. So why is it called forked? Because they are coming from the same source and they are multiplying into various branches. So this shape is like a fork, right? So the correct answer over here is B. That is, this should be A, B, C, D. Okay. So the correct answer is B. Types of different and unique versions of mobile operating systems. With reference to concept of quantum entanglement, consider the following statements. Now, quantum entanglement was a theory given by Einstein, which he called spooky action from a distance. From a distance. Why did he call that? Because under quantum entanglement, what happens? The properties of two bodies, they get so closely associated with each other, even when these bodies, they are not in close proximity or close distance to each other. They can be at very far away distances, but they impact each other's properties. So that is known as quantum entanglement. So this is correct. Quantum entanglement refers to a property that intimately connects even distant particles. So particles need not be in close proximity to each other. They can be very distant. One can be on Earth, other can be on Moon. They can be so distant to each other. So that is known as quantum entanglement. You do not need to go into theory of this. You just need to know what exactly is this, because the theory of this is very complex and not in your syllabus. This is correct. Yes. Quantum entanglement, it can be achieved to get perfect secrecy in encrypted communications. The keys, they can be entangled with each other at the source and the destination. And any tampering of the keys here and here, it can alter the message, and the person who's trying to hack, they will not get the correct message. Okay. So the correct answer here is C. Now the next question. Which of the following online activities of internet-based forms would fall under the category of dark patterns? Now, dark patterns, they are certain patterns, they are certain designs of user interface. Now, what is user interface? When you see an app on your phone, what you're seeing right now is user interface. When you open Facebook and what you see on the screen, it is user interface. So they are certain designs of the user interface which can make the experiencing of using that particular app difficult or exploitative. Now, without you knowing, you might subscribe to a particular service. Without you knowing, you can like an ad that, without you knowing, you can agree to share your information with that app. So such designs which try to manipulate your decisions on the apps, they are known as dark patterns. So a multi-step account subscription cancellation process, that is also a dark pattern, because it is making life difficult for you. You're not able to unsubscribe from that particular service. Your credit card is getting charged continuously, right? You don't want to pay that money, but you have to pay that money because it is a complicated process. So you are getting exploited. Difficult disabling process of unsolicited sponsored messages. You are not able to cross off those messages that you don't want to see. Writing sponsored in very small fonts in reels and content on social media. So without your assent, you do not follow that particular page, but still you are seeing that on your feed, and you're not able to identify whether it is a sponsored content. So this is also correct. And nudging users to sign up for premium services with pop-up ads, like what happens on YouTube. It asks you to subscribe to premium services to disable the ads. That is also an example of dark pattern. So the correct answer here is D. It is known as dark pattern because dark is something you associate with something that is bad for you, right? Consider the following statements. Augmented reality is a technology that allows the creation of a fully immersive digital environment. This is wrong. You're just augmenting the reality. This is your reality. These things are around me. I know that, right? So this is augmenting reality. Only there is certain augmentation of the reality around me. You must know of a game called Pokemon Go, right? So through your phone, you are able to see your surroundings normally. Only suddenly a Pokemon it appears on your screen and you have to catch that. It is an example of augmented reality. The Pokemon is not actually over there, but you are able to see it on your screen. In mixed reality, the user can see and interact with both the digital elements and the physical one. This is a correct statement. In mixed reality, it is somewhere between augmented reality and virtual reality. Mixed reality. You are able to interact with the real world as well as the virtual world. However, the difference between augmented reality and mixed reality is that here you need to use certain machines, certain goggles or eyeglasses. Here you need not do that. Your smartphone can do the work. In virtual reality, superposition of digital elements into real world environment. This is actually explanation of augmented reality. So this is wrong. Virtual reality it allows creation of fully immersive digital environment. So the explanation of these, they have been swapped. Extended reality is a technology that can create a fully virtual environment. This is also wrong. Extended reality is nothing but it is a subset that includes, it is a broad term, not a subset. It is a broad term that includes augmented, virtual as well as mixed reality. Okay. So this is also wrong. So the correct answer is C. Sorry, the correct answer is D, and this is a correct explanation. I'm so sorry. Extended reality is a technology that can create virtual environment. Yes, it is, because virtual reality that can create fully virtual environment is a part of extended reality. So this is a correct statement, and the correct answer here is D. I'm so sorry. Next. Cryopreservation, recently seen in news, is talked about in which of the following situations? Sorry, cryopreservation. So cryo is anything which is related to very cold weather, or it is related to ice or such things, right? It is very cold. Now cryopreservation right now is in news because we are trying to cryopreserve the gametes of the corals. Why we are doing that? In order such that in future, if the corals they start getting extinct, they start getting disappearing from the earth, we'll have their gametes in which are properly cryopreserved, and this will help in production of corals once again. So the correct answer here is B. Right now they are in news for preserving the genetic diversity of the coral species. Now consider the following statements. Bacteria are much larger in size than viruses. This is a correct statement. Viruses are very tiny. Compared to that, bacteria are bigger microorganisms. All viruses contain either DNA or RNA, but not both. Now, usually what happens, the viruses, they contain either DNA or RNA, but in very rare cases, they can contain both DNA as well as RNA. So this is a wrong statement. Viruses as opposed to bacteria are thought of as living things. This is also wrong statements. Bacteria are living things. They can They can do their functions, they can multiply, they can reproduce without getting latched on a host as well. So they do not necessarily need a host for their survival. Whereas what happens for viruses, they necessarily need a host for their survival and reproductive activities. So they can lie dormant in a non-living state outside the host, but once they get inside the host, what happens? They start dividing. So that is why you must have heard of something called zombie viruses. Zombie viruses are those viruses, ancient viruses, that are reappearing on the surface of the earth because of melting of polar ice caps. Now, these viruses, they were in a dormant state up until now. Okay, they were in a very dormant state up until now, but now that they have come to the surface, if they attach themselves to a host, they will start replicating, they will start multiplying, they will start creating diseases. Okay, so that is why viruses, they are very dangerous, because they can survive without the host, but once they get a host, they start dividing. Okay, so the correct answer here is B. Okay, the term biologics, which is often seen in the news, is related to which of the following? So I'll tell you the correct answer. It is C. Biologics are drugs which are produced from living organisms or contain components of living organisms. Now, usually drugs, you associate them with what? Chemicals. They are chemically produced. Now, there are certain drugs which are biologically produced and they are known as biologics. A very good example of them is gene therapy or bone marrow therapy. What happens in bone marrow therapy? A bone marrow of one person, the donor, it is transported or it is given to the receiver for curing of many types of cancers. Okay, so the drug is not a chemical, it is a biological substance. So these drugs, they are known as biologics, biological drugs, or biological things that help in suppressing any disease. Deepfake recently seen in the news is related to which of the following? Now, fake, something that is not real. Okay, deep, yani deep means very extensive. It is so fake, it is very fake, right? It is an adjective. Now, usually for positive things, you use high as an objective to show how good it is. High level of enthusiasm. And deep, it is an adjective used in negative terms. It is so bad. It is deeply concerning, right? So deep fake is something that is so unreal that it is very mind-boggling, right? So what should be the answer through that logic? It should be C. That deep fakes, they are artificial intelligence techniques to make images of events that are not real. Okay, so these are not real means they are fake. So deepfakes, this is a technology that is used to doctor images, that is used to doctor videos, to develop something that has not happened. Okay, so it can show a video of you moving around in, say, Paris, okay, but you have never been to Paris. How can that be possible, right? So deepfake is a technology that can make it possible. You will never go there. This will be a fake video, but it will be created using this technology. Consider the following statements with reference to enzymes. Majority of all the enzymes in human body are either carbohydrates or fats. This is wrong. Majority of enzymes in our body are protein based. Okay. They are always found uniformly within a cell. This is also incorrect. You have a cell which has a lot of cellular organelles. Okay, a lot of parts. You have mitochondria, you have your nucleus, you have certain other organelles, right? So these enzymes, they are not present in the cell in a very uniform manner. Some particles, some parts of the cell, they require more amount of enzyme. Some other parts, they do not require a lot of enzyme. Okay, so they are distributed according to the requirement of the cell. They help in production of sweetening agents and modification of antibiotics. Yes, when enzymes they are taken out of your body, they have a lot of economic value. They can use for production of a lot of medicines, for production of other things like sweetening agents as well. So yes, this is true. So which of the statements are correct? Only statement 3. So B is the answer. Okay. Which of the statements are correct with reference to germicides? Now, germicides is something that kills germs. Herbicides are something that kills the unwanted weeds or herbs. Weedicides are something that kill the weeds. So, germicide, killing of germs. They can be used to combat vectors of dangerous diseases caused in humans. Yes, they can help us in killing of bacteria, in killing of other pathogens that cause various diseases. You must have heard of many germicides being used, many disinfectants which are also germicides being used during the COVID time, right? Both antiseptics and disinfectants act as germicide. So sorry. This is also correct. Now, what is the difference between antiseptic and disinfectants? Antiseptics, they are used on living surfaces, like on your face. Okay, you must have heard of antiseptic creams. They are used on living surfaces. You apply them on your hand, on your faces. They are used for living surfaces. And disinfectants, they are used for non-living surfaces, like sodium hypochlorite. We talked about that in the previous question, right? It is a germicide, it is a disinfectant which is sprayed on the various surfaces to prevent the disease-causing agents to be present on those surfaces. Now, what about statement 3? Statement 3 is also correct. Now, depending upon the concentration of chlorine in that particular product, it can be antiseptic if the concentration of chlorine is less. It can be disinfectant if the concentration of chlorine is high. Okay. So, lower concentration of chlorine, it can be used on living surfaces like your pools. The pool water, it has some amount of chlorine, right? The concentration, if the chlorine concentration it increases, what happens? The people who are in the pool, they start getting rashes, right? So in lower quantity, if chlorine is used, it can act as antiseptic. In higher quantity, in higher concentration, if it is used, it can be disinfectant. Another product that can work as both antiseptic and disinfectant is iodine. So your correct answer here is D. Vectors of dangerous diseases means they spread dangerous diseases, pathogens that are spreading dangerous diseases, or vectors like mosquitoes that are spreading dangerous diseases. Which of the following drugs is primarily used in the process of narco or narco-analysis test? Now you must have heard of this test, this narco test, that is truth-telling test, that is conducted on various criminals. However, please note that these tests, the results of these tests, they are not acceptable as a proof in the court of law. Please note that, okay? So in narco test, what happens? Your body is given certain chemicals, and those chemicals, they sedate you or send you in a hypnotic state. Now, what happens in hypnotic state? Your imagination power, it reduces. You are able to speak, but your imagination power reduces, and that is why it is considered that in this hypnotic state, a person is not able to lie, because for lying you need to imagine, right? You need to think of new things other than what has happened. So in this hypnotic state, you are not able to lie. So that is why you only tell the truth in the narco test. So the chemical that is used over here is sodium pentothal. which is a hypnotic or sedative agent. Which of the following options best explain why aluminium utensils are not used as induction cooktops? Now, aluminium, it is a good conductor of heat and electricity. However, it is not as good as copper. However, there are certain limitations with using it on induction cooktops. This is not true. It does not become carcinogenic on induction cooktops. Otherwise, if it was even remotely carcinogenic, we would not use it on the normal cooktops as well, right? This is also not true because it is used on normal cooktops. It does not have a low melting point. This is also not true. It does not give any kind of electric shocks to the users. The correct answer here is this. Now, resistance. As I talked about earlier, what happens when current is moving in a particular wire? Some of it moves from A to B. It is moving from A to B. What happens? Some amount of it moves, other amount of it is dissipated as heat, right? So what happens? Carcinogenic is something that can cause cancer. So what happens? Only if the resistance of a material is very high will it be able to convert electricity into heat. So this is one reason why aluminium is not used for induction cooktops, because it will send the current from one place to another. It will not convert it into heat because of its low resistivity. It is also a diamagnetic material. What happens in diamagnetic material? The magnetic field, these materials, they are repulsed from magnetic field. Now you need to know one thing, that induction cooktops or electric cooktops, they use magnetic fields for heating of food, okay, for creation of heat. Now what happens in diamagnetic materials? They are repulsed from any kind of magnetic field, so they are not able to heat anything up. So for aluminium, this is the case. It is a diamagnetic material, plus it has low resistivity, so it cannot be used on induction cooktops. Deuterium, recently seen in the news, is an isotope of which of the following? Now, before I go on with this question, around 10 questions more are left. So the class, it might increase by 10 minutes, okay? Instead of 10:30, it might end by 10:40, 10:45. Please bear with me, okay? Because I want to finish most of the questions. Okay, so question 81. Deuterium, recently seen in the news, is an isotope of which of the following? Now, first you need to know what is an isotope. Now, any element on the periodic table, it has an atomic number and a mass number. Okay, so what is atomic number? It is number of protons or electrons in that particular element, while mass number is number of protons plus neutrons. So in the nucleus, so this is the nucleus, and these are the orbits where the electrons move, okay? So the nucleus, it has both protons and neutrons. So the mass number is number of particles in the nucleus, and atomic number is number of protons or electrons in that particular atom, okay? So what happens in case of isotopes? The atomic numbers remain same. That is, the number of protons or electrons in that particular atom remains same, while the mass number changes. That is, number of neutrons might change. So what happens? In case of hydrogen, it has one atomic number and one mass number. That is, it has one proton, and in the nucleus also only one proton. It does not have any neutrons. However, if one neutron is added to it, it becomes an isotope. So this still has one proton, but it has now one proton plus one neutron as well. So this is an isotope of hydrogen which is known as deuterium. So its mass number is 2 instead of 1 of hydrogen. So the correct answer here is A. At low resistivity, conductivity will be higher because lower the resistance, higher the conductivity. This is a doubt someone has asked, so I'm just clearing it up, okay? With reference to floating solar power plants, consider the following statements. It is more expensive to set up such plants than land-based system. Yes, correct. Because you need a base over which these PVs can float. You need a floating base, and creation of these floating bases which can contain the weight of these PVs, it is expensive. Energy yield is greater in floating solar plants than in land-based systems. This is also correct because there is some amount of cooling that happens of the solar PVs, and whenever these PVs are cooled, what happens? Their efficiency, it increases. I have actually done an experiment on that where there was a continuous cooling of the PVs and I saw that the efficiency of the PVs, it increased. Apart from that, apart from this cooling effect, what happens on the water? There is not much dust that can get settled over the PVs, right? So because the dust is less, because of the cooling effect, the efficiency of the PVs is higher. It can help to reduce the presence of algal blooms and evaporation water loss. This is also true because the surface of the water, it is covered with these PVs, right? So there will be less amount of evaporation and even the algal blooms, they will be stopped. Why? Because the water surface, it does not have sunlight coming to it anymore. So the algae, they cannot grow over the surface of the water. Okay, so this is also correct. And what is the correct answer? It is B, 1, 2 and 3. Consider the following statements with reference to lab-grown diamonds. Now, these are diamonds which can be grown in labs. Usually, naturally occurring diamonds, they occur under the surface of the earth, right? They are mined out of the earth. But these lab-grown diamonds, they can be grown in the labs, and it is grown in such a manner that the properties of these diamonds, they are similar to the properties of the natural diamonds, okay? So this is wrong. They are not chemically different from the natural diamonds. Now, apart from the use in jewelries, these are also being used in chips. These lab-grown diamonds, they are also being used in chips, and it has been found that they consume much less power compared to the silicon-based chips. So this, if properly and commercially exploited, can be a revolutionary thing for the electronic industry. So this is correct. India contributes more than 50% in global production of these diamonds. This is incorrect. Currently, India produces 15% of the global production, and India is self-sufficient when it comes to its own requirements for these diamonds. So the correct answer is B. Now the next question. From which of the following underneath resources of earth petroleum products can be obtained? Now, petroleum products, it is not just petrol that you put in your cars. Petroleum products are a wide variety of products that can be received, like petrol, like diesel, like the tar that is used for overlaying the roads, like Vaseline, that is petroleum jelly. So there are a wide variety of petroleum products, and they can be produced not just from crude oil, but also natural gas. In fact, natural gas is in itself a petroleum product. Bitumen, which is used to produce tar, that is used to overlay the roads, okay? And lignite. Lignite, it has high moisture compared to normal coal. So it can be also used for production of various petroleum products. So the correct answer here is D, 1, 2, 3 and 4. Consider the following statements with reference to Unique Identification Authority of India, Aadhaar Face RD app. Now, just a small tip, consider RD to be a short form of read. Okay, so Aadhaar Face RD app, what will it do? It will read your face and help you in your identification. So it can enable Aadhaar card holders to authenticate their 12-digit identity number using their faces. So you won't have to carry your card anymore. Your face can be scanned, and using that scan your Aadhaar number can be obtained. Okay, so this is correct. Aadhaar card holders biometric data will be stored in Central Identity Data Repository. Yes, this is also true. It will be stored with the government and not with any private entity to protect your privacy. Okay, it has been developed by Council of Scientific and Industrial Research in collaboration with Department of Science and Technology. This is wrong. It has been developed by UIDAI and not CSIR. Okay, it is developed by Unique Identification Authority of India. So what is your correct answer over here? It is A. Which of the following factors are responsible for evolution of heavy metal tolerant grasses near some industries using heavy materials? Natural selection, gene mutation, genetic variation. Now, what do you mean by natural selection? It means that only those individuals will survive that can adapt to the surroundings. Okay, and how will they adapt to the surroundings? Through genetic mutations. Their genes, they will get mutated in order to help them better survive in the conditions surrounding them. So what will that mean? Their genes, their genetic makeup, it is different than any other individual's genetic makeup. So what does that mean? There is genetic variation between these two. There is a variety of genes. There is genetic variation, right? So natural selection, it occurs due to gene mutation and genetic variation. So all these statements are correct. The grasses which are not able to adapt to these heavy metals around the industries, they perish. And the grasses which are able to adapt, they get propagated. So that eventually what happens? All the grass in that region, it is now adapted to heavy metals. So the correct answer here is D. Consider the following pairs, the technology and what is its use. Distributed ledger technology, centralized storage of transaction data in the financial sector. Now, distributed and central, can you think that they can be used together? Distributed is something that is not central, right? So this is a wrong statement. Distributed ledger technology, ledger is what? Your accounts. So in distributed ledger technology, multiple computers at variety of locations can be used to hold the account details, account information, and simultaneously work in tandem with each other. So this is not centralized storage of transaction data. This is actually distributed storage of data. Cryptojacking. Now this word has been taken from hijacking. Okay. So person, they can hijack your system and they can mine the cryptocurrency using your system, using your electricity, and you will get exorbitant electricity bills and you won't know why are you getting that. Okay, so that is cryptojacking, hijacking your systems in order to mine cryptocurrency. So this is also wrong. This is not protecting crypto transaction. It is actually using your resources to mine cryptocurrencies. Carbon nanotubes. Yeah. making of bulletproof jackets. Now this is true, yes, carbon nanotubes, they can be used for making the bulletproof jackets. In fact, these jackets, they are so good at their work that not only they stop the bullets, they also bounce them off from the surface into a different direction. So the correct answer here is C. The process of human metabolism involves which of the following action? Now, metabolism are any kind of chemical reactions or other type of reactions that go in the body of a living organism in order for that organism to keep living, to keep surviving. Okay, so those are the processes that go on inside our bodies. So what all does it involve according to the question? This question is asking you that. Storage of energy. Yes, it does involve storage of energy. Unless energy is stored in my body, how will I be able to work? The end mechanism of metabolism is to generate energy in the body, and this energy eventually gets stored in the body. Chemical reactions in the body cell. Yes, unless these chemical actions take place, how will the cell generate the energy that is required for undertaking various biochemical processes within the cell that helps in survival of the cell? You know that mitochondria, it is what? The powerhouse of cell, right? So it undertakes various chemical processes to convert the energy coming from the food into energy that is now usable by the various components of the cell. So this is true. Conversion of energy, mitochondria is doing it. Mitochondria is converting the chemical energy of the food into the type of energy known as ATP. We don't need to go into much details. So it is just converting the energy from one form to another so that it can be used by the cell for its survival. So metabolism, the process, it includes all these things, and the answer is D. Which of the following functions are performed by T cells in the human body? Synthesize antibodies to fight pathogenic infections. This is wrong. Now, there are two types of white blood cells that occur in our body. We have T cells and we have the B cells. So, both of them, they are types of white blood cells. It is only the B cells which can actually produce the antibodies. The T cells, they ask the B cells to produce these antibodies which are then produced. Okay, so this is wrong. Killing infected cells in the body such as cancer cells, yes, T cells do that. Controlling immune reactions, yes. Whenever an external agent enters the body which is dangerous for the body, or whenever there is a mutation inside the body which creates cancer cells, what happens? The T cells, they get the information from that, and what happens? Then the whole process of activation of our B cells and the T cells, it starts. Okay, so B cells are very important in controlling the so the T cells, they are very important in controlling the immune reactions of our body. B cells, they are just producing the antibodies on the command of the T cells. They also recognize these tumors. Now, unless they recognize tumors, cancer cells, or external agents, the immune system in our body does not start. So what do? They do recognition of the external agents, external dangerous agents, or any tumors or any cancer cells in our body. They direct the B cells and they kill the cancer cells and other tumors in our body. So what is the correct answer over here? It is B. That statements 2, 3 and 4 are correct. Which of the following methods are generally used in the food manufacturing industry to increase the shelf life of the food? Now, when you look at the answers, okay, you also need to try the elimination method when you see the options. How can we use it here over here? Oxygen Now oxygen, what does it do? It oxidizes anything. Now oxidizes is almost always related to destruction. Okay, oxidization of iron, it causes rust, right? So it is almost always related to destruction. Anything ranging from simple bread to a wine, a costly wine, whenever it gets in contact with oxygen for a prolonged period of time, it will get destroyed or damaged. So we can definitely not add oxygen to any of the food material to preserve it or to increase its shelf life. So this is a wrong statement. So now that 2 is incorrect, you know that this cannot be the answer, this cannot be the answer, this cannot be the answer. So the answer will be this, that pasteurization, that is successive heating and then cooling of the material. So first the food material, it is heated up to a temperature and suddenly it is cooled. So that leads to killing of the pathogens in that material. It is used for milk, extensively used for milk. Blanching, it is heating of the material, mild heating of the material to kill the pathogens. Sorry, it is mild heating of the material to reduce the chemical processes that go inside the material that can lead to its ripening, lead to its destruction, its decay. Irradiation, it means putting a product under a ray of light, a ray of UV lights in order to kill the pathogens. You know about UV systems in your aquaguards and purification systems, right? They use this irradiation. So your correct answer here is C. Okay. Consider the following statements with reference to green hydrogen blending project recently seen in the news. Now this, you know about National Green Hydrogen Mission. Now what is green hydrogen? Green hydrogen is the hydrogen that is produced using renewable energy. So there is a method called hydrolysis through which hydrogen is produced. Hydrolysis is breaking of the water molecules into its components, that is hydrogen and oxygen, right? So what happens if the energy used for hydrolysis process is taken from renewable sources like solar or like wind energy, then the hydrogen that is produced, it is the green hydrogen. Okay. Now, let us take a look at the statements. Mixing green hydrogen with natural gas, it reduces CO2 emissions. Yes, when natural gas it is burnt, it produces CO2. However, when hydrogen is burnt or hydrogen is oxidized, it produces a very harmless end product, that is water. Right? So mixing green hydrogen with natural gas reduces CO2 emissions, correct? But keeps the net heat value same. This is also correct. So this is a correct statement. Now this green hydrogen blending project, statement 2 says, it is a joint effort of National Thermal Power Corporation Limited, NTPC, and Maharashtra Natural Gas Limited. This is a wrong statement. It is a joint project of NTPC and Gujarat Gas Limited and not Maharashtra Natural Gas Limited. So what is your correct answer? It is A. Now we come to our last question. Okay. With reference to semiconductors, which of the statements given below are correct? Semiconductors have full valence bands, thereby making it easier for electrons to move. Increasing the temperature of semiconductor decreases its resistance. Silicon-based semiconductor devices exhibit much lower leakage current compared to germanium. Okay. So, what are the valence bands? So, valence band is the end band. Okay. Now, this is the nucleus. These are the bands of electrons. So, the electrons, they move around the nucleus just like our planets, they are moving around the sun. Okay, so the valence band is the last band of the semiconductor. Now the issue over here is the valence bands of the semiconductors, they are not completely full, they are not full, they are partially full. That is, for example, silicon, the last orbit or the last band in which the electrons are moving for silicon, there are 8 places, out of which only 4 are filled. So it is partially filled. So for semiconductors, they do not have full valence bonds, they have partially filled valence bonds. Okay, so the last valence bands. So this is wrong. Increasing the temperature of semiconductor decreases its radiance. Now you need to know about 3 things very well. There are conductors which are good at conducting electricity. Then we have insulators which are very bad at conducting electricity, which insulate actually, which do not let electricity pass. Then we have semiconductors. Okay. So conductors, they are very good conductor of electricity. They do not conduct electricity, and they are somewhere in the middle. Semiconductors are somewhere in the middle of conductors and insulators. Now conductors we have already discussed. When the amount of heat, when their temperature is increased, what starts happening? There is molecular vibrations that happen in conductors, and that leads to a reduction in their conductivity. That increases their resistance against conduction of electricity. Opposite things happen in semiconductors and insulators. When their temperature is increased, their conductivity actually increases. That is, increasing the temperature decreases the resistance, increases the conductivity. Okay, so this is a correct statement. So just remember that for semiconductors and insulators, increase in temperature will increase their conductivity, while for conductors, increase in temperature will decrease their conductivity. Then the third statement, silicon-based semiconductors, they exhibit much lower leakage currents as compared to germanium. Yes, silicon-based semiconductors are the most efficient semiconductors, and that is why almost 95% of the semiconductor market, it is made up of silicon. Okay, so this is also a correct statement. And what is the correct answer over here? It is C. So this finishes your discussion for the PTS. Thank you very much for staying with me, even though the class was overshot by 10 to 12 minutes. So I would request all of you to once again, after a few days, go through the test, try to give it once again, so that every fact, everything you learned in this class, it gets more deeply permeated into your brains. Okay, so just go through the whole explanation that has been provided to you and try to attempt the test once again after a few days. Okay, and I hope all your preparation is going well. Do not forget to give the next test on this coming Sunday. So thank you very much for attending this session, and all the very best. Please fill your UPSC forms as soon as you can. Okay, so thank you very much and have a very good day. Sorry, have a very good night. Bye.